alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds from the Grave podcast. My name is Yussef.
And my name is Vania.
And such an audience needs something stronger than a pretty little love story. Why shouldn't I write about monsters?
Monsters. Now, I wonder what this episode could be about. Has to be one of my favorite classic horror films, and that is The Bride of Frankenstein.
Yes, so this is actually now part 2 of our HHN IP month, where we talk about the IPs that are going to be at this year's HHN. So that way, if you haven't gone to the event yet, you want some background on like some of the IPs that are going to be there. And and just for the fun of it, just because like the IPs that are offered this year are some of our favorite movies. So
yeah,
we figured,
for sure.
like, why not, you know?
Yeah, I think it's definitely good to like get on some backstory of all that. I actually, even though we actually covered Texas Chainsaw Massacre last week, I actually still haven't gone through the house. But that also made me think, that sounds very contradicting. I'm so sorry, guys. But I also heard that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 was a part of it, so I also watched that right after.
I didn't know anything about that.
It was all over Twitter. How did you not know any about it?
Because I've been doing my best to stay off of the spoiler stuff on Twitter. Like, I didn't know anything about what was going on until just now.
So it's a mixture. It's just...
So you ruined it.
A mixture, too.
You ruined it.
Oh. It not entirely though.
Hashtag Vania ruins it.
Oh my god. It's all over Twitter. Well, I'm sorry if I posted any spoilers now for you guys. Now you
I was doing a terrific job of not getting spoiled, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It was spoiled for me by my father, so why call me like cry me a river, call me a river.
So this is technically your dad's fault.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so that takes
even
the blame.
Before that, okay, but even before that, there was already spoilers on Twitter that the second one was a part of it. So
see, I didn't know anything about it because I had done such a good during team member preview stuff. I stayed completely away from Twitter just because.
I stayed completely off too, but literally in the middle of the event, if you were tweeting while you were in the middle of the event. People were saying shit already.
Oh, I wasn't either. I wasn't on Twitter during the event either. The only time I was on Twitter is to post a selfie saying, "Hey, I'm here," and that was it. That's the only time I say it on Twitter. This
is why our podcast is not getting enough exposure. You're welcome. Well, now I actually got a hold of the account, so.
Thanks. Okay. Yes, I know. I'm an old man when it comes to social media. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So I was like, wow, okay, no wonder. Like, people didn't even know we were both there. Then most of the time, people were like, where's Yussef? I'm like, he's off with his family, and I'm with mine. So we're not together right now. So that's literally like half my tweets that day. But anyway, sorry if I ruined it for some of y'all, but y'all should know any better. They were already spoiling stuff on Twitter. Don't at me. I know like half of you already seen all the houses. I only saw 5. So
I've only seen 3.
You only saw 3?
Yeah.
Damn.
Because I had to leave early that day. Because my mom had twisted her ankle last week, so she could barely even walk at one point. So we were like, yeah, we should just go because she just couldn't walk.
Was it right by HHN? Did she do it at the event?
No, she did it last week before HHN started, but like she was still feeling it. So like after a while, she put too much pressure on it and then just had to go home because it just hurt, you know.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but she's back. Better. She's back and better. So like we hitting it up.
Okay, cool. You did scary though. I didn't do scary.
I did do scary. I did Puppet Theater, Scary, and Bride.
For me, it was Puppet Theater, Wicked Growth, Hill House. What was it? Case Files, and there was something else that I'm missing. Shit.
Icons.
Icons, yeah. Yeah, Icons was like it went so quick that I just kind of forgot about it. Like, but it was good. It was good. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. Anyway,
And
I love how we just went into an entire rant of like giving each other shit, and I'm so sorry, guys. But anyway, we're gonna be going into the Bride of Frankenstein movie, which is gonna be the prequel to the house Bride of Frankenstein lives. So if you guys are preparing or have not experienced the house yet, this is going to give you a little bit of backstory before you go into the sequel, which is the house, not a movie. So
mhm.
let's dive into it, shall we, Yusuf?
Let's do it.
All right, so in the movie The Bride of Frankenstein, we are introduced to three characters in the beginning of the movie, and it is Lord Baron, Mary Shelley, and Percy Shelley. So Lord Byron is admiring the storm outside, saying how nature is dramatic while all three of them are inside enjoying the spectacular view of the storm. And he's like hella dramatic about it because he only likes to
He's
reference things in a theater way.
yeah, he's standing over there like all dramatic looking with like one foot like sticking out farther than the other, just like, the storm. It's lovely.
I mean, so it's like a dramatic, and then Mary Shelley appears to be sewing something as Lord Baron invites her to watch the storm. Please keep in mind that this character is important, which is Mary Shelley. She disregards his invitation and tells him that it alarms her, as she tells her husband Percy Shelley to light the candles during this dark, stormy night.
That's
So Lord
awesome.
Baron said that he is in disbelief that Mary is the one that wrote the story of Frankenstein, especially at her claim of being afraid of lightning and just storms in general. He continued to say that reading her story has made his icy blood creep. So he was very impressed by her writing, but he also did call her a bland beauty,
Yeah,
basically
like, dude, seriously.
acknowledging like you can't be beautiful and smart at the same time for writing stories about horror. So he's kind of awful and a little sexist.
Oh, a
Um,
little, yeah.
a little, yeah. So Mary says that such an audience needs something stronger than a pretty love story. Why shouldn't I write of monsters? So this is where our quote came from,
Yep.
and basically proving her point that like there's other stories than just love stories.
Mm-hmm.
There's things, more horrible things to be afraid of in the world
Yep.
and in stories. And the fact that the whole reason why she wrote Frankenstein was to teach a moral story about a mortal man that was punished for his attempt of emulating God. So if you guys have not seen or experienced a Frankenstein house or a Frankenstein movie, basically, as we know from our previous story before Bride of Frankenstein, technically Bride of Frankenstein is a sequel, but a prequel to a house, which
Yeah, so
is very
it's like a
weird.
trilogy. So you have Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, then Bride of Frankenstein Lives. Like that, it's like a trilogy apparently.
Yeah, so in this
So
case,
Bride is technically the Empire Strikes Back of the Frankenstein trilogy.
stop. Anyway, so as you guys didn't already know, with Henry Frankenstein, he had attempted to create life out of a dead corpse, and then he created the monster, which is what she's referencing to. Lord Baron says that if it gets published, he will relish the horrors of each page. And Mary says that she doesn't want to be reminded as if she's worried about her book was going to fail as a whole. But Lord Baron finally goes into the story of
which
the
is like such
creation of
which is such a
Frankenstein.
dick move because she's like, hey, like that's cool and all, I don't really want to talk about it, and he just immediately goes and is like, oh yes, the story of Frankenstein. She's like,
Yeah,
didn't she just say she didn't want to talk about it? And you
yeah,
just literally stood in front of her and just explained the whole story in front of her.
yeah. Like basically going back and this is when we are going back and we are introduced to a little bit of back story before the story that we're about to experience in this movie,
Yeah,
which
just
is
like
really weird.
it's just like a background like flashback sequence, so
Yeah,
you can remember what happened in the original Frankenstein.
yeah. So, and like, what I like about this sequence of the Bride of Frankenstein, it is that Mary Shelley did write the Frankenstein book, and we're actually seeing like the historical version of her talking about her book, and then finally going into the other story. So Lord Baron finally goes into the story of the creation of Frankenstein, as if giving us a summary of what happened in the first movie. He said, "Why would she end the story so abruptly?" And she said that if it wasn't truly the end, that she offered to tell them what happens after the story of Frankenstein. This is when she starts to get into this beloved story of the Bride of Frankenstein.
Which I love this opening. I love the fact that it doesn't just like start like a regular movie. It's almost
Yeah,
like it's literally like, hey, you remember when you wrote this book? And she's like, and they're like, what do you think is gonna happen next? And she's like, oh, come in. This is exclusive. Like I haven't written any of this, but like this is what was gonna happen. So like it feels like she's
yeah,
like inviting you into like a secret that you weren't like nobody else is supposed to know.
no,
So like that
yeah.
immediately kind of draws you in. You're like, oh, what was she gonna plan?
Yeah, so you kind of get to see what she actually plans for, like a future book,
Mm-hmm.
trying to hope for its success. So for the actual movie, we see the villagers in the mill burning down from what they thought was the end of the monster's life. The villagers are questioning if he's still alive. And my favorite character, which is super dramatic, is Minnie. Minnie is
Fucking
always
Minnie.
screaming.
Minnie is like pure attitude too.
Yeah, for
Like that woman
sure.
does not give a shit.
Yeah, she's always like, "Oh, like is make sure that he's alive, like he's dead, or I want a piece at him," kind of thing. And she's always like blowing things out of proportion, and
Yeah.
her scream fucking drives me nuts. Like it's just like, "Oh my god, please shut the fuck up!" But it's funny, but shut the fuck up. My ear. If you have headphones watching this movie, I suggest you turn it down to like a 70 rather than 100, because that girl will blow your ears off watching this movie.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
the villagers believe that the Baron's son is dead, which is Henry Frankenstein, and they go and take his body to deliver the bad news to the Baron and to Elizabeth. A villager couple are still by the burning site, and the man, under the name of Hans, keeps telling his wife that he wants to see if the monster is still alive with his eyes, and he falls down into a watery area below the burned mills. So that dumbass freaking falls into a watery pit,
Yup.
and he just because he wants to make sure that the monster is dead. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why are you so obsessed? Because I know that the whole reason was because he killed their daughter,
Yeah.
but like he just wants to make sure that it's like really like it really happened kind of thing.
Yeah, I
So
think
we
it's
still
like
the
the
mom.
it's like that sense of closure. It's like, like this fucking monster killed my little girl. I want to make sure that he's dead too.
Yeah,
And what does he get? What does he get? He falls into a water pit.
yeah, below the mills, which is looks kind of dark and kind of gross. Not gonna lie. So it is revealed to us that we see the monster is still alive within the watery ruins and attacks Hans. Kind of drowns him. The monster crawls up, grabs the woman's hand, tosses her into the watery pit as well, which
Which
is
I
funny to
love.
me.
I love her. Like, it's like obviously you can tell it's like a little rag doll, but just like the way that it hits like the bottom of the mill is I was laughing my ass off. So that thing just
Yeah,
went bop.
I was like, yo, this guy is like yeet. Like it's like, oh my god, chill. Like,
You know what it reminded me of, like that meme. The guys that one guy's like next to his car. He's like, "Stop! Somebody get help! Get the police!" And then he pulls out a gun, but not for me.
oh my god.
That's what it reminded me of.
Oh
He's over
damn.
there reaching for help, and then he just like pulls her down.
Yeah. It's like, oh, like, thank you for helping me up, yeet. Throws her right down with them. So the crazy woman from the village, which is Minnie, sees the monster and starts running away to tell the others. They bring Henry's supposed dead body back to his house, and Elizabeth tells them to bring him in. So we all think that he's dead. And then Minnie comes in screaming her little ass off. saying that she saw the monster with her own very eyes. And then the
Yeah.
guy is like, "You're crazy. Like, I don't like. We all saw the mills burned down. Like, it can't be true." Then she's like, "Fine, everybody deserves to die anyway," and that she will wash her hands of whatever happens to the village. And I was like, "Oh damn."
She's like, I don't
She
give
don't
a.
give a fuck.
She does not give a fuck. You don't believe me? Fine, fuck you. Die. Go
Yeah,
ahead. Deal with the
I was like, go
consequences.
ahead. So then we see a little bit more of Elizabeth. She believes that Henry is dead and says that someone warned her that something terrible will happen on her wedding day, thinking that it was just his death. But Minnie sees Henry's arm move and starts to scream drastically. I can't tell you how many times she screamed within the first 13 minutes of the film.
Oh,
I'm
it's
like,
ridiculous.
why are you I think she screamed a good 3 times already.
Already. Oh, yeah. Probably more.
And everyone discovers that he is alive, and Elizabeth is happy to see that her husband is alive. Technically, it's not her husband. I
Not
wrote
yet.
this wrong in the movie, but they were supposed to get married, but because he started creating the monster,
He's like, the wedding can wait.
it was
I'm
delayed.
busy with science.
The science.
Science.
So we change the scene, and Elizabeth is taking care of Henry in his bed, and he starts to tell her that he was aware that he was profaning by creating life. However, it was a thrill for him to create man, and if only he had trained the monster to do his will, that he starts to seem crazy and scaring his bride-to-be from this thought. So, yeah. Yeah, Elizabeth was not happy. She was like,
did you not learn your lesson, bitch?
Yeah,
did you forget that this motherfucker grabbed you and threw you off a mill? Like, you remember that, right?
Yeah.
You might have hit your head, but you do remember that, right?
You could have died, but So we actually get to know a little bit more of Elizabeth's character. Is that she clearly wants to leave town, get married to him, and forget the whole experimental incident.
Yeah.
With his crazy science stuff.
Which, I mean,
yeah.
it's completely rational, too. Because I'd be like, hey, like, you fucking left... It's essentially like, you didn't marry me because you were doing science. If I was Elizabeth, honestly, I would have been like, he got what he deserved.
It's science or me.
Yeah, and not only that, I would have been like, first of all, you're lucky to be alive. Second of all, you're lucky to even be in this house. Because, bitch, your ass would be outside right now.
You would be burning or drowning or worse.
Oh, no. Even if nothing happened to you, if you were still alive, you would still be outside the house because of what you did. Your ass ain't getting in the house. You don't even get to sleep on the couch. You get to sleep on the road in front of the house.
I wonder what the punishment back then and would have been. It would have been hilarious. So after Elizabeth is scared for her life, she finally confesses to Henry that she couldn't sleep because she had seen apparitions trying to take her lover away, and she starts to point out the apparition that we don't see on camera, which is super weird to me. But Henry cannot see it, and she hysterically falls into his arms, and then they hear someone at the door. So that scene was a little weird to me because I wanted to see what the apparition looked like, and if she really saw it, or if she's just as crazy. So
yeah, I don't think she's crazy. I just think that they kind of wanted you to just leave it up to the imagination of oh, what do you think the apparition could have been? Also, budget.
For sure. Well, lots and lots of budget.
Because I can tell you when we get to this, I'm pretty sure I can tell you where the majority of the budget of this movie went. But we'll get to that in a second. So yes, they do get someone at the door, and that is none other than one of our new characters, Dr. Pretorius. And he says, he busts in, he's like, hey, I gotta see Henry alone in secret. Nobody else, just me and Henry.
Yeah, he's so dramatic about it too. I was like,
yeah.
What the fuck are you? Why are you here?
This guy walks in, you can immediately tell that he's shady as hell too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he does get Henry alone. He tells him like, "Hey, I want to do an experiment. Like, we need to collab together because I want to make a new experiment." Henry's like, "Bitch, no. I might have said those things to my wife earlier, but I think I kind of learned my lesson. I probably shouldn't fuck around with that kind of stuff." So, but then Pretorius is like, "You know what? Technically, what you did was wrong. Like, you did some grave robbing. Um, what the monster did, you're kind of responsible for. Like, I can tell everybody that was all you, unless you help me."
Yeah, he had a lot of dirt on his hands. He's like, "I'm gonna throw you in with the dogs," and I was like, "Oh,
Like
great!
that immediately tells you, he's like, "Yo, this guy cannot be trusted. He's shady as shit."
Oh yeah, for sure."
The fact that he's willing to just blackmail you like that, mm-mm.
He's a piece of shit,
He really is.
obviously. But it's the antagonist we all love to
Yeah,
hate. So
and I mean, and at the same time, Henry did do those things, and he, at least the grave robbing part of it, and he is, technically responsible for the deaths because he did create the monster. So,
yeah,
in a way, I would understand how that could scare Henry enough into doing anything. But that is after that, Pretorius is going to take him over to his lab and shows him the experiments that he's done. And this is where the budget of the entire film went. Creating these miniature humans that are in these little bottles. And they're like the
so
cutest little thing.
impressive.
They're like the cutest little thing.
Yeah, so the miniatures are a queen, a king, a devil, a ballerina, an archbishop, a mermaid, and I think there was two more that I forgot to list in there.
And I think it
But
was just
like
those.
it was just those.
Yeah, because
Okay, I
he
feel
would
like I'm
like
missing
plane them in
something. I
order.
counted the containers and they were 8, and I only have 7. I think 7
So I
or
think it was
6.
I think it was just those because it was the queen, the king, and the king was like madly in love with the queen, and that's why he had to make the archbishop to like keep an eye on the king, and be like, "Bitch, stop." And
Yeah,
then he somehow made a devil, and he's like, "Oh, this one kind of looks like me." Like,
yeah.
that's not foreshadowing at all.
Yeah, he's like, why have like we wish we could have a world full of devils and like none of this angel crap. And I was like, oh damn, okay,
Yeah. And
shit.
then and then he pulls out the ballerina, and she's like, he's like, "This is a lovely ballerina." She's kind of boring though, because she can only dance to one song. Like, I don't know why he needed to add that in there. He's like, hey, she can only dance to one song instead of just being like, "Look at this ballerina."
Yeah.
And then he's
But
got
honestly, like that whole scene was super impressive to me
yeah.
because I was like, damn, it was like 1930s and you can pull that shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, not even that too. Just like going back to just how he explains it. Like, he shows the mermaid. He's like, "Yeah, this is an experiment I did with seaweed." And I'm like, "How the fuck did you get seaweed in a mermaid? Like, how the hell did you even get to that?"
Oh my god.
He's like, because he's just like so casual. He's like,
Yeah.
"This one was I did experimented with seaweed," and he just shows a mermaid. You're like, "How the fuck did you get a mermaid out of that?"
Oh
Jeez.
no, that shit was entirely weird, honestly.
It was entertaining as hell, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
But yeah, so after he shows him all his experiments and tells him, it's like, "Hey, like, the only thing I've been able to create this life, but I can't do it the way you did it. I can't give it size." So then he continues to feed the idea of like, "Hey, we got to do this together." He puts in a lot of Bible analogies and then says, "You created man, and now together we create his mate."
This is when we finally start to realize that, the whole plan of creating a woman for the monster is starting to come in effect in some shape or form.
Yeah.
But we also see that the story has disregarded the monster for a good 20 minutes until
Mm-hmm.
we finally cut through a scene where the monster is in nature and he's lost. And we can kind of sense like a sense of like humanity in him as he like can
Yeah.
tell like he's alone and he's like reaching for water and I'm like, wait, like a dead monster needs water. And then like he sees his own reflection, he kind of gets pissed at it, slaps his reflection in the water, like, oh, like, ew, like I'm ugly, like he can't even stand the sight of it. So I feel so bad for him for
He's
the
just
most
like,
part.
"You gave me the ugly."
Oh my god.
Okay,
I love the
here's what I want to
monster.
know though. Like before we get into more of like the Frankenstein's monster stuff, we're going back to the Pretorius thing. What exactly is his reason for wanting to create a mate for him in the first place? Like, why not just create another monster? Like, what about it was like we need to create a wife for him? Like, I'm just curious as to like what led to him, what led him to do that as his reasoning and be like, we'll just make a woman.
I guess it's almost like the play on God because you know how God created man and creating something out of the
Mm,
rib of like
okay, yeah, that makes
Adam's
sense.
rib and all that stuff. Like it's kind of like a Bible analogy. Like it keeps adding on to it because I
Yeah.
do know that they reference God a lot in this movie. Um, you know, with the religious beliefs. So I'm guessing it's almost like still. I feel like this film, in a sense, with my conflicting agnostic beliefs, it's so bad. It kind of has like a mockery of religion, of course, like you know, with emulating God
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. You know, like if you know, not only God can create uh basically humans.
Yeah.
So that's what I think it might be because it's just like, hey, if, why not make a story to just keep you know rolling with everything that we've been throwing out into the story. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's just me though. Unless he's worked a lot with women, because a lot of the miniatures also have been women, the
Yeah.
majority of them.
But yeah, but like based on what you said earlier, especially with like all the Bible analogies being thrown around, like all the religious allegories, it probably makes a lot more sense. You know, it's like we made Adam, we just have to make Eve.
Yeah,
Like I think that makes more sense now that you mentioned that.
yeah.
But I'm sorry,
My
continue. Go
Christian,
back to what you
my
were.
my inner Christian self is like, good job.
Pat on the back for that one.
The 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 little part of me that still believes. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but we shush. He seems he sees a fuck. Why? I hate that you made me laugh. That's probably gonna stay in the podcast. Knowing you.
Yep.
He sees a young shepherd woman and he's trying to get her attention with like a friend, like in a friendly way. But of course, the girl freaks out, falls into the stream. Monster saves her, and she proceeds to freak out. So dramatic, you know, almost like the damsel in distress moment all over
And
again.
I
And
I
then,
fucking love what the monster does because he's just like waving his hand in front of her. He's like, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!" Like I'm just trying to help you. Just shut the fuck up.
and she continues to scream. And two villagers spot him and start chasing him down. The villagers are notified as they all go on another witch hunt for the monster, and he can't seem to catch a break. He's clearly alone and afraid.
I
So,
will say this movie has some really weird cinematography stuff. Like first of all,
yeah.
at the beginning when he kills the two people in the well, like they cut to these random shots of an owl.
Yeah.
And then they did the same thing here, where like after the girl falls into the stream, they cut to shot footage of the sheep
Oh,
for no reason.
yeah.
Like they just cut to like two sheep, like one right after the other. I'm like, what are we pointing at sheep for? Who thought that was a
Yeah.
good idea? They're like, oh look at these sheep, point the camera.
Yeah. I was like, these sheeps look cool. Point the camera.
These sheeps are
I
so
guess,
photogenic.
or maybe it's like, you know, well, she was like a little shepherd girl, so it's
hmm
probably representing, you know,
Yeah,
something
I
with
I
her.
just thought it was funny how there were just like these weird close ups of the sheep. Of
Oh,
just like them
yeah.
just like standing there just going bah. Bah. I was like,
Yo,
what are we
need to
pointing at
go to
sheep
the
for?
YouTube video, please. Like the way that Yussef just looked at the camera just killed me right now. He was so serious and
Just
determined to become the
bah.
sheep.
What I become one
Hashtag
with the
Yussef is
sheep.
a sheep.
Become one with the sheep.
Oh man. Well, anyway, the villagers find him and they tie him to a tree log. Minnie is doing the most, as always, and always being like, make sure that he's tied up or else I'm gonna do it. And I was like, oh, please, Minnie, shut the fuck up. You don't need this. Oh my gosh, she's like such a likable character. She's annoying, but she's so likable.
She
Um,
really is. She's like
Uh,
Franklin,
yeah.
because she's like
Oh,
annoyingly endearing.
yeah, like Franklin, rest in peace.
Rip.
They all celebrate as they all toss him to the back of the carriage and they bring him to a dungeon to be locked away. The monster breaks free from the dungeon and starts to kind of chase the villagers around. And then they realize that the monster murdered one of the girls from the village, which is referencing back to the first movie
Yeah.
about the girl that he accidentally killed. So we cut back to a family
Mm.
nearing, like, just near a bonfire in the woods, and they all somewhat are concerned for their safety. But the male thinks that the monster has already been locked away safely. The monster is hungry. I felt so bad. I was like, oh my god, he just wants to
Yeah.
eat, like, clearly. And he comes across the family, tries to communicate with them, and he doesn't know how to use words or gestures properly. And he mostly wants their food, and the family
Yeah.
runs away. And the monster kind of puts his hand over the fire to grab the meat and burns his hand
Well,
by
not only that,
accident.
it's yeah, it's like the stick with the meat is just falls into the fire. Like, oh no,
Yeah,
oh,
that he reaches for it,
and he
and
burns his
remember,
hand.
fire bad.
Fire bad. Now, before we get to the next part, I want to talk about like the dungeon scene
Yeah,
because there's like two lines that are hilarious in that scene. Like when they lock the monster up and you see like all the villagers like staring through the bars at him. And then like the
yeah,
main like the Burgermeister like looks up at them. He's like, "Y'all go home now." He's like, and Minnie's like, "Don't tell me what to do."
yeah.
Unbelievable. And then
She's like, I run my own life. Leave me
yeah,
alone.
and then like when he leaves the dungeon, he talks to like the two guards. He's like, you guys make sure, that he doesn't stay. That his, keep an eye on him. And he's like, yeah, so you can go home. And he's just like, what? And they're like, have a good night, sir.
Oh yeah, that was funny. You can go home now. I was like, what? Does it?
Nothing. Good night, sir.
Nothing's more relatable in the 1930s where we're all still telling our boss to fuck off. That's
I just thought that was really
impossible.
funny. So I was like, because these movies weren't necessarily like super funny, but for some reason they added humor to this, and it makes it so much better.
Yeah. Like, it definitely has a more sillier tone than the first couple of movies.
hmm
Like, for just in the Universal Monster series in general.
Yeah,
So,
and not silly as in like, oh, this is like a really stupid idea. It's like it adds these little funny things in it to kind of just bring up the story, but it still has a very serious subject matter.
yeah. So, speaking of serious subject matter, this is when we kind of get to a very emotional part of the movie that it always like catches my heart, and I'm like, oh, like this
Yeah,
is
this is probably
awesome.
my favorite scene in the movie, honestly.
Yeah. So the monster runs and comes across a cabin, and a violin playing Ave Maria is like playing in the woods. The monster seems to be tamed by the sound, and the violin is being played by a blind man.
Yes, I love the
Uh,
fact that like the monster just stops, like listens to it, and then just starts smiling. I was like, that is so
yeah.
cute. He's
I
like,
was like,
what,
oh,
this shit's fire. This music is fire. I'm gonna go listen to this. Oh
yeah.
wait, but actually no, that doesn't make any sense. It's like fire bad. So
Fire.
he's like, this music is chill.
uh, yeah. This is straight calms my soul for the hunger that I have. Anyway. But the blind man hears the monster and steps outside to see if there's anyone outside. No one responds, and he goes back to play his violin. The monster bursts into the cabin, literally so nonchalant,
I
and
gotta
he's not even
say,
questioning the song,
no,
the
I
sound.
gotta say, this blind man is like Daredevil because that man walked like nothing. Like he didn't even have a cane or anything. He just walked. I'm like, damn, this man knows his
Yeah,
house. And not only that, he walks out. He's like, "Is anybody there?" Doesn't even wait for an answer. He just turns around and goes back inside. He's like, "I ain't got time for this shit.
he's
Fuck
like,
that."
I'm alone. I'm going crazy again. Yeah, we love that. Go back.
He's like walked outside. He's like, "Wait, COVID-19," and then walks back inside.
Kevin.
I'm under quarantine.
Oh my gosh, no. So he has no idea. So the monster comes into the cabin. The blind man is hospitable towards him, and he has no idea that the monster is, well, a monster.
Yeah.
And he invites him into his home and realizes that the monster is hurt. He thinks that the monster is mute and that he was sent by God to be his friend because they're both impaired in a sense.
Mhm.
So I thought that was like super cute
It
because
is.
he's like, oh, like you can't speak and I can't see, so like you must be sent, like you are like the answer to my prayers, and I'm like,
Yeah, especially because like it's such a beneficial thing for the both of them because the monster needed a friend, needed somebody to finally be nice to him. And
yeah,
then the blind man had just been looking for compassion. Like he was just looking for somebody to talk to and like somebody else. So like I thought that
yeah,
was cute how like they complemented each other that way.
yeah. And the thing is, like, this also makes you believe that the monster is smarter than we make it to think.
Because I wouldn't say that the monster is not intelligent. He's technically a child. Because he was just born like recently.
Yeah,
So like he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know right from wrong. He doesn't know anything. So like he's just defending himself as he can because he's just like these people are coming at me. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna start killing shit because that's the only thing I know how to do.
yeah.
So like
Because, like, a sense that we understand that he is, like, obviously smarter than he thinks is, like, he's like, hey, if you understand me, put your hand on my shoulder. And he does exactly that. So, of course, he knows
yeah,
words and commands, but, like, not like he would like it to be just, like, the way that he can repeat words, at least not right away.
yeah, yeah. Like he's still like he can understand, but he can't reciprocate the communication.
Yeah. So he gives the monster food and offers him a bed to sleep, and then he thanks God for giving him a friend, and he cries, and the monster comforts him, and it's such a cute moment. He like puts his hand on his
He's just like
back, and I'm like,
stop.
stop.
See,
It's
this
so
is
cute.
why the Frankenstein's monster is not a monster. He's just
No,
misunderstood. Damn it, he's not
yeah,
evil.
no. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Very, very sad.
I think but this is where we get to like one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Oh yeah. Well, do you want to go ahead and
Yeah,
go
I'll go
through
ahead
it?
and discuss this one. So like, after that the blind man starts teaching the monster a couple of different things, like how to say different words. Like he shows him bread, wine, and I love the fact that the monster just like grabs a piece of bread, he's like bread, and just takes like the biggest bite out of it. Like he
Yeah,
rewards himself for saying bread by eating a piece of bread. And not only
I
that,
forgot.
at one point the blind man has a cigar and lights it up, and the monster starts freaking out. He's like, "Oh shit, that's like fire! Oh fuck!" But
Yeah,
then, but then he's like, the blind man's like, "No, no, 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 no! Don't worry, this is some good shit." Gives him the cigar, and he just starts puffing away at it like he's an experienced man at this point.
yeah,
So like the monster's like, he's already cultured. Like he knows his bread, he knows his wines, and he knows his cigars.
yeah,
Like
and
this
drinks
is a man of culture.
and wood. Yeah. And so the last thing that I think he kind of teaches him is a friend. He
Hmm.
also teaches him like, oh, we're having drinks and things with bread among friends, and then he understands the meaning of friend, and then this is when the monster starts to understand the basic meaning of good and bad. So this
Hmm.
is when his knowledge is being like kind of like sculptured
Yeah.
like in ways that it couldn't be because no one has showed him compassion or was patient with him. Mind you, the blind man that has no idea that he's a monster, but it's
Hmm.
like I guess it's like not judging a book by its cover kind of thing, and just learning someone's personality, which is a really good moral of the story anyway. So
Yeah.
that's great. So he prompts the blind man to play the violin, and two strangers just come in the cabin, realizing the monster is there,
Yeah.
and
Because
shit hits the fan.
originally they were just these two guys that were just lost in the woods. They're like, "Hey, dude, do you know how to get out of here?" Oh, wait a minute, you're blind. Oh shit, that's the monster.
Yeah, then they're like, oh shit, like then they start freaking out, and then the monster starts freaking out, and then the blind man's like, don't attack him, that's my
It's my
friend, and
friend.
then he starts attacking the strangers, and then the monster knocks something up that catches the whole cabin on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and then they take the blind man away, and he is
This poor
never
blind
to be
man's
seen
like,
again.
it's like, dude, you guys just like set my house on fire. You're kidnapping me.
And you separated me from my
Yeah,
only
because he's over
friend.
there like like staring up, and he's just like, please don't hurt my friend, and they're just like dragging him away. You're like, what the? Leave him alone. The hell did he ever do to
Yeah.
you? He's a poor old blind man, not hurting anybody.
He just wanted a friend. That's all
Yeah,
it
and
was.
these two assholes go in there, scream, set his house on fire, and then kidnap him. Like the fuck was that?
That's awful. I felt so bad for the monster
I feel
because,
bad for both of them
yeah,
because like they both lost their companion.
yeah, their companionship, their friendship, the wholesomeness of it all.
With the whole Smiths.
All right, so we are actually going to be taking a really small break here because we do have a surprise for you guys. So stick around to see what it is. So, hey everyone, we wanted to experiment with ways that we can make our podcast more interesting with introducing a little segment called Grave Robbing Facts, where we give you some fun facts about television, movies, and events that we are covering on each podcast episode. And without further ado, here are some grave robbing facts about the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yes. So starting off, we have Ernest Thesiger, the actor that played the role of Dr. Pretorius. Listen, that's a really hard name to pronounce. He managed to beat out two horror legends to play Dr. Pretorius. Originally, they were considering Claude Rains and Bela Lugosi to play Dr. Pretorius.
And
That's
that would have been so
insane, though.
cool.
Like, I can't imagine Bela Lugosi playing Dr. Pretorius. That would have been fucking awesome.
And evil, and probably a little bit
evil.
more little more sinister.
Yeah. Because like this version of Pretorius, he's like, look at me, I'm evil.
Yeah.
He's
So,
like the guy from Perry the Platypus. He's like Doofenshmirtz.
oh damn. Incorporated. So yeah, that was our first fun fact. Our second fun fact is Dr. Victoria's miniature mermaid was played by an Olympic medalist, Josephine McKim, an accomplished swimmer who competed in the 1928 and the 1932 Olympics, winning 3 medals for the United States and 2 golds.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
We got some history stuff going on.
We got some athletes in this movie.
Yeah, athletes. So what is number 3? Is that
Number 3, the bride's famous hairdo is supported by a wire cage. And the wig was actually red and not black. Reason for that is because of the whole black and white pictures. If they went black, it would have looked completely different than actual black and white film. So they had to make it a certain color. Yeah.
Our fourth fun fact is that the movie was banned in multiple countries such as Trinidad, Hungary, and Palestine. In China, the censors insisted on 4 key scenes to be cut from the movie before it could even be shown within the borders. In Sweden, the censorship board implemented a staggering 25 shots to be deleted, reducing the bride's runtime.
At that point, how long would the movie have been? Like 20 minutes? Like, yeah, you got 25 things you gotta cut out of here. By the way, the movie's only gonna be 25 minutes now. You're like, what the fuck? This makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It would literally this would be the movie. The monster kills the 2 people. They're like, hey, we gotta make a mate for the monster. They make the mate for the monster. The castle blows up. The end. That would have been the whole movie.
Damn.
That's it. That's all you get. That's all you get, Sweden.
For Sweden's wild, honestly. With all due respect.
Anyway, but we thank you, Sweden, for IKEA.
Yes.
And the Swedish chef.
And H&M, anyway.
H&M, that's right. They're Swedish. I forgot about that. But
shout out to H&M. Let's go.
Yep. But our next grave robbing fact here: the Bride of Frankenstein was the only entry in the Frankenstein franchise to receive an Oscar nomination for its sound recording. So it is.
Don't
It's
blame
pretty.
it. It's
Yeah.
really nice, especially with like the use of the soundtrack too.
Mhm. Yeah, I was surprised to see that. I wasn't expecting it to be the only one that got nominated.
Yeah, big sad, but
Yeah.
it's
But
also good
hey,
too.
the fact that it is nominated is still a huge deal. So yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. But
So
and what
my
is our last
favorite
one?
fun fact is number 6. Elsa Lanchester actually played 2 characters in the movie, but not both were credited in the end credits. Can you guess which one? Let us know in our podcast to see if you can guess before the end of the episode. And those were great robbing facts about the Bride of Frankenstein. Now back to the episode.
Thanks to guys for sticking with us. So we are now at the halfway point of our story here. So after he gets separated from the blind man, he does arrive at a cemetery and he hides in one of the tombs. The tomb seems to lead to some sort of chamber, almost like a mausoleum or like a crypt. And then there he finds a dead female body and waves at it to see if it'll wake up. And he whispers, "Friend." Unfortunately, it is a dead
Oh,
body. Nothing happens. It's
yeah,
kind of sad.
not the mate he was looking for.
Yeah. This, this isn't the body you're looking for.
Anyway, but moving on.
Yeah, but then the monster sees Dr. Pretorius coming over with 2 men to search for a female corpse. So he hides and Pretorius prompts one of the men to read the inscription, and it says, "Died 1899, Madeline Ernestine." And Pretorius asks him for the girl's age, and he says that it's 19 years old and 3 months. That's insane.
Yeah, the
Like,
body
Jesus.
was the fact
Y'all
that she
went
had
for...
a name and an age is like super cool. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a lot of things that a lot of people know about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the bride actually had a name, or at least a deceased name?
Yeah.
You would like to call it? Yes.
Her name was Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie Ernestine. How
and
are you?
she was 19.
In 3 months. So after they dig her up and examine her body, he pays the men and they go about their night. He brings a lot of candlelit stuff and he brings bottles, and then the monster just comes around and he's like, "Yo, what's up? What's
I
poppin'?" Not
no.
really.
What I love the fact that he's just like sitting there in the crypt, just smoking and drinking his wine. He's just and laughing,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
just
why is that my mental state? Like, if I could, I would be sitting in a crypt and just smoking a cigar, drinking wine, and laughing for no reason.
yeah, seems like an aesthetic to me. Aesthetic.
It's called the Pretorius look.
Hey, Victoria's aesthetic. Let's go. So the monster asks for a cigar and companionship, even though like he kind of just joined Dr. Pretorius, and he just allows the monster to join him as if it was a little nice little dinner. And we love that. And then the monster does ask him, "You make man just like me?" And then Pretorius says, "No, a woman." And then the monster is excited because he gets to have a friend
Mm-hmm.
that is just like him. So you kind of see like a little wholesome side.
Yeah, he's like,
"Oh, you're
oh,
gonna make a friend like me?
you gonna make me a lady?
You're gonna make me a lady? Oh, it's so cool." Oh my god, the monster is so stinking cute. I don't know why people bully him. He's not scary.
Because he was different.
For sure. And in this scene, we start to see that the monster has a recollection of who he is and who made him, especially now that he's learned some dialogue and some dialect, especially acknowledging where he came from. And
Mm-hmm.
he comes from dead, and that he loves being dead and not alive, which was super depressing. I'm like, damn, that hit hard. Why is that? Why is that us in our depression? Anyway, let's not get that dark. Ayo, same. But making him seem completely human, and he admires the corpse's head in his hand, and he says, "Woman, friend, wife."
Yeah, this is kind of where it's like a turning point for him, because now like that is his one objective. Is like, I need to help this man make my wife. Like, I'll do
Yeah.
whatever it takes. Like, I'll side with you. Like, just please give me the thing that I need the most, which is just companionship.
Yeah. That's a blind man that put that in his head, but it's not a wrong thing to have. We all
Yeah.
want friends.
We
No,
all
it's
we all want companionship. We all want somebody.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible. Oh, yeah.
Oh
Okay.
my god.
So Dr. Pretorius comes to visit Henry Frankenstein, and it seems that he wants nothing to do with him, which is Henry Frankenstein, by the way.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth is clearly annoyed that Pretorius is there, and that she urges her husband, or her husband to be, to get into the carriage as soon as possible to leave town. Because she's
So
like, not this shit again.
yeah.
Get in the fucking car. I'm sick of this.
I love both of them here because because Henry's like, hey, like, dude, like, I'm not doing this. I changed my mind. He's like, oh, you're gonna do what I told you to do. Elizabeth comes in. She's a bad bitch. She's like, You stand over there for a second. You motherfucker, get the fuck away from my husband. You get your ass in the car right now. We're leaving.
We're doing this the 1930s way. It's
I just
awful.
love how like she just takes charge. Like
Yeah.
she's like in his face. She's like, get the fuck off. You wait in the fucking car until I'm done.
Yes, mom.
Yes. He's just like,
Yes,
yes.
wife.
He's like, yes, dear. That
So
was great.
now that we have that going on, the doctor says that he has made all the necessary preparations for them to start their collaboration on the woman's corpse. And Henry says that he changes his mind, that he won't do it. Pretorius is like, I expected this behavior. And then he opens up the door. He's like, you just need a little bit of a persuading from a little assistant. So he opens the door. And guess who's there?
My son.
My son. Mayo Maxie. That's wrong.
Oh my god. It's little Maxie.
It's little Maxie. Wow, this just turned into a Disney podcast real quick. Yeah, so it's the monster, the one that he created from the first movie, and then the monster commands him to sit down. Son is getting snazzy and snappy and is about to go down.
I will say this. Henry gets pushed around a lot in this movie.
Yeah,
like Henry at this point, he's just a ragdoll. He's like, his wife is like, no, you're doing what I tell you to do. But then the doctor's like, no, you're gonna do what I tell you to do. And then the monster's like, no, you're gonna sit your ass down and you're gonna do what I tell you to do. And Henry's like, oh god, okay, I'll wait in the car. Oh shit, I'll sit down.
For like, oh my god. What was it? Henry is a pushover.
He really well. I think it's also kind of fitting because, like, in the original, he was very like forceful. He's like, "I'm doing this, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you can't stop me." And now here, because I think it's because he's learned his lesson. He's just like, I guess.
Yeah, like, he's like, I'm just trying to live,
yeah, like,
man.
He's just been completely weakened by that at this point.
Yeah, rest in peace, Henry. He didn't need to be a pushover bitch. Anyway, so Pretorius opens the door. We already see the monster come in, and then the monster makes his way to Elizabeth because he's like, "You got the convincing? Got it. Good. I'm gonna go away now." And then Pretorius kind of sends him away. Almost like obeying him in a sense, which is what Henry wanted. He wanted a creation to be able to do his will, but now it seems like Pretorius has gotten a hold of what he originally wanted to do, which is kind of ironic in a sense. So either way, the monster makes his way towards Elizabeth's room. Unaware of his presence, Minnie tells her that she's afraid of leaving the Baroness alone, and the Baroness assures her that she's going to be all right. Nay. Nay.
Well.
So the monster comes into the room as soon as Minnie leaves and kidnaps her. Minnie tells Henry Frankenstein that his wife has been kidnapped and watched as, everything just goes down, and asks Dr. Pretorius if he was doing this, and he says that he was, that if he wants to see his wife again, that he must do the experiment.
Yep.
So Pretorius is like literally notorious for blackmailing. Hey, I did something cringy that you didn't like.
No,
First
I
time,
love
let's
it. I love
go.
it. I'm over here like notorious Pretorius.
Victorious. Eh, So yeah, so his wife has been kidnapped at this point. The monster kind of takes her into Dungeon Town,
Dungeon
um,
Town.
and just
Sounds like a
tells
sounds
that
like
bitch
a
calm
like
the
a
fuck down.
sounds like a local S&M club. Dungeon Town.
Hey, Dungeon Town,
Make your way on a Dungeon Town.
and that may be bad, but I'm perfectly good at it. I'm kidding.
Oh my god.
So they go both into the tower, and they decide to conduct the experiments because Henry Frankenstein, he's like, I can't find her. You win. I'll go with you. So the first sign of life is that the heart was beating, but it was beating irregularly. They tried to regulate it, but then it suddenly stopped. And then Henry was like, "Oh, like this heart is fucking useless. They needed a heart that was sound and young, and the
I'm
heart that had
wondering
just recently died."
where the hell did they get that first heart from?
I don't know. I was like, where did y'all?
Yeah, I was like, where did the first heart come from? Yeah, but then this is like when like the darkness hits for real though. Because
Yeah,
Pretorius like, you need a
the
new
shit gets hot.
yeah, he's like, you need a new heart? I got this. Hey Carl, go find me a heart. And Carl's like, alright, I got you, boss. He goes over and kills a woman and takes her heart. You're like, the fuck?
Yeah,
And then they play it off like a comedy scene too. When he brings the heart over, he's like, "Where did you get this heart?" And he just like looks at Pretorius, and Pretorius is like, "Don't worry about that. Do your experiment."
yeah. He just mouths to him, "Police case," and then he's like, "Police
Yeah,
case." Like he's like,
it's like such a dumb thing. He's like, police case. Yes, a police case. That's what it was.
yeah. I was like, oh. Then Henry's like, this is terrible. Okay. So it turns out that Henry had fallen asleep. The monster comes in, demanding us fuck again, literally pushing him around
A ragdoll pushes him.
like a rag
He's
doll.
literally like, "Bitch, wake the fuck up and get to work.
I was like, get the fuck up with the work. I need my wife.
I need my wifey."
Yeah, like now. And then Henry is exhausted, and he's like begging them, like, please, like I've been like restless. And then Pretorius is like, I got this, whatever. So he goes, gives the monster an alcoholic drink from distracting him. I don't know what was in the drink, but he knocks him out cold.
And
And I
like,
was like, what the fuck did you give him?
not well,
Okay.
not only that, he doesn't even try to hide it. Like he puts the thing, like the syringe, in the drink, like in front of the monster's face, and it's like, "Here,
Yeah.
drink this." The monster's like,
And
"All
he's
right,
like,
sure." Probably got roofied or something.
damn, that roofie did not last long, to be fair, though.
No.
So Henry is restless and he wants to know if Elizabeth is okay, and that Dr. Pretorius finally puts her on the phone, like, hey, look, she's alive. Now get to work. Kind of thing. Point blank. That kind of thing. So they finally get around to putting the heart into the body, and it's almost time to bring the new experiment to life. As we all know from the last movie, or basically the prequel to the sequel to this other sequel, I guess.
The prequel to
The,
the middle to the sequel.
to the middle to the sequel kind of thing. So the storm begins to roar in the night, and they send up the kites and they prepare the body for a natural electricity that is in the lightning and the thunder. And then they finally send her body up for the iconic scene that repeats itself from the first movie, and now for the mate to come alive.
Which, by the way,
They're-
I actually really like the way the scene was shot here better than the original Frankenstein. Because
Me
I love
too.
how, like, while they're talking about what's going on, like, they keep cutting to these close-ups of Pretorius and Henry, and, like, the monster at one point wakes up and, like, literally
Yeah,
grabs the two henchmen and just throws them off the building.
yeah,
Which I just love. Because, like, in the middle of the storm, he's just like, "Hey, guys, bye."
yeah. I was
He
like,
just
by the way,
chucks them off.
yeah. I was like, oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
then but then they also have like the close-ups of like all the electricity and the machinery going off. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, it makes the scene so much better, I think.
And it makes sense to deserve the sound recording too for this one,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like the soundtrack, the original soundtrack for it, just it was like very subtle, and then when it gets really dramatic, it gets really loud
Yeah.
until they finally bring her back down.
And even then, you
So they
still have
start.
like the sounds of like all the electric equipment and like
Oh
the ropes
yeah,
moving and all that stuff. So like it's very much like here's everything that you would hear if you were there.
yeah. It's so cool. I like this. But then they start to remove all the metal parts from her body. They realize that her fingers start to move on their own, and they unwrap her head to reveal her lively eyes. Henry shouts once again, "She's alive! She's alive!" Like it's alive, kind of thing. Again, same thing from the first movie, but reprised. Hello, remix by Henry Frankenstein. Let's go. Um, so they finally get into her iconic white dress, and we finally see her in her full glory as she's introduced to us as not as Madeline Ernestine. She is the Bride of Frankenstein by Dr. Pretorius.
Yep.
Hey. So remember when I told you guys to keep Mary Shelley in mind? This is when we see the same actress that portrayed Mary Shelley as the mate in this scene. So this is the answer to that grave robbing fun fact. If you guys guessed it before, then congratulations. If not, I hope you guys learned something new. So she is enamored by Dr. Frankenstein, almost instantaneously goes towards him and kind of just ignores everybody else in the room. And she's like, "Oh, he's
Hi.
high. Hi, I want to hop on you." Anyway, they help her maintain her balance a couple of times, like parents that are trying to help a child walk for the first time.
Yep.
She seems confused about her surroundings and then comes across the monster in her vision. He softly says "friend" a couple of times as she looks up at him as he comes closer. The minute he touches her arm, she does the iconic scream
Yep.
that we all know and love to hear, especially from that first Howling Horror Nights house. And then she screams at the sight of him, immediately turning her attention to Dr. Frankenstein and follows him. As if it's like, "Daddy, help me, Daddy." Like,
Papa,
like,
help me.
"Papa, please." So this is almost like a sign of rejection. So she basically kind of rejects someone that she's probably made to be meant for, which is really weird. So she moves towards the table where she sits down, and the monster follows. We have the other beautiful, iconic scene that we all love the way that it was shot. I really like the medium shot that goes into the close up of their hands when she has her arm extended out and the monster comforting her hand as if she is still disoriented from what had just happened because she was just born. She's kind of like a newborn baby, like, "Where am I?" And and she's not sure how to feel about him. Not that she knows how to feel yet,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So he comes closer, and again, she screams and moves away from him. He just can't catch a break. That poor monster has
Like
gone through so much rejection already.
he gets that double rejection
Yeah, he's like,
because she's like he like touches her arm. She's like, no, I'm gonna go sit over there. He goes over. And he's like, hey,
yeah.
like listen, I'm sorry. She's like, no, fuck off.
I feel so bad for him. Oh my god. So then the monster is convinced that she hates him just like the villagers do and almost can't seem to fathom the idea of being alive anymore.
Which is so sad because he's like,
I know.
the woman that was literally created for me to love doesn't love me back. And he's like, I guess I'll just die.
Yeah, I was like, that's the better option of the both of them. So
Damn.
yeah. So of course we go into the ending scenes, the last 3 minutes of the film. Literally. And the monster grabs a hold of the lever in the tower as they warn him that it would kill them all instantaneously. Elizabeth appears outside of the door, calling out to Henry Frankenstein, and Henry urges her to get away from the door. And then I love this scene because this one's like super depressing, but it like wraps up the story so nicely. Where the monster tells Dr. Frankenstein to go, like, "You live." And then he finally leaves with Elizabeth. They get to live.
And the monster even has like a small smile when he does it. He's like, you know what? You go live, damn it, Henry. You go live your best life.
Yeah, like you go, Papa. Like you don't need that, And then he gives like these dead dark eyes to Dr. Pretorius and tell him, "You stay, we belong dead." And then another thing that breaks my heart is that the bride lets out like a hiss, and he kind of lovingly stares at her for like a complete like 2 seconds, like he's like in pity, like he's like, "Damn, like you don't deserve to like if you like can't love me, like especially like how you're supposed to go into the world and no one's gonna accept you the way that they're gonna accept me." So I kind of take that into like a really deep meaning. Is like, damn, like he doesn't want her to suffer the same shit that he's been suffering.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like an act of love, even though
she doesn't know it.
She doesn't know it, and she doesn't deserve it in a sense. And complete pity and rejection, and finally pulls down the lever to kill all three of them.
Pull the lever, Crunk.
Pull the lever, Crunk. And then we see the crazy explosion that you guys please keep in mind as you guys go into HHN. This explosion is very important for when you guys go through the house.
Yep.
And Frankenstein and Elizabeth rush out of the tower before it comes down and looks back to look at the remains of the resting place of his experiments. So yeah, and that's how kind of the movie ends.
Yeah.
And we don't really see like the end of like, you know, of Mary Shelley wrapping up the story. We don't see any more of Lord Baron or Percy Shelley.
It just kind of ends
it there. So it's kind of like a very different ending, because normally something like that cuts back to like the reader or like
whoever was explaining the story. Yeah.
But yeah, it just ends there. And it was Bride of Frankenstein. Yay!
Yeah. So like now that we've mentioned the movie itself, here's the thing you have to know about the house. The house takes place immediately after the movie. Because the first thing you see when you walk into that house is a destruction of the castle. So that is literally, if you can watch the movie and then go straight to the house, it would be one complete story.
%, yeah. I know that Hollywood has it a little bit different. We do, because I feel like the similarities between Hollywood and Orlando is that they will probably have that same beginning scene, but a different start point.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because I heard that, you know, in the Hollywood one, this is when we start to learn about how the bride learned her dialect, from which help she received to get to where she needed to be before she started conducting the experiments. In Orlando, we just go straight to her being smart. So, but that's for you guys to find out in the event. I don't want to spoil it, especially if you haven't been to HHN Light. And I feel like we've talked about it in our previous episodes, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we have.
So if you guys really want to know, go back to those episodes, and you will have a little bit more of a referencing to that house, of how it is. Mostly, I think we said everything that was in the house in those episodes.
Yeah, I think
but if you haven't experienced it, probably go back to it after you experienced it, and then you can type all back to here. So I feel like we're pulling a Star Wars here, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. I overall I really like this movie. Like, I hadn't seen it in a while, so I kind of forgot about what the majority of what happens in the movie. Yeah. So it was kind of nice to kind of see it again with fresh eyes, and I fucking love this movie.
Yeah, me too. I hate it when people say that this movie is boring. It's really not.
It's really not, like, though.
Yeah.
Like, it moves along at a pretty good pace. Like, to the point where, like, oh shit, this movie's only, like, it's not even an hour and a half long. This movie's like an hour and 15 minutes long. You're like, oh shit, it's over?
Yeah.
Like, it like, you don't notice that it's a shorter movie, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just wish it was a little longer, or we see a little bit more screen time of the bride, but
yeah,
it is the way it's written.
2 minutes.
Yeah. Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's when we see her in her completion. Yeah. Other than her corpse, if you want to conclude her corpse, I don't know. It's like 5 to 6 minutes at that point. But
yeah,
you know.
But yeah, like I really liked. They kind of took some risks with the cinematography, with the story. Some of the newer characters that were put into it were entertaining enough. Like, even some of the characters that were in the original had like a different look. Like Elizabeth had a lot more to do in this film. Henry was like he was more of like a background actor at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
He
and
followed more the monster in
hmm
Dr. Pretorius more than anything
yeah,
in this,
and
which is
even like
definitely different.
yeah, and even like some of the smaller characters, like the like Minnie and the blind man, like they added so much to the story.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I like do like the fact that it does focus on the monster himself a little bit more. Just because you kind of get to see what he has to experience and how his experiences literally shape him by the end of the film and like how he acts and everything.
yeah. He learns the difference between good and bad after all.
He learns he
And
learns
he uses
how
it.
to love and how to be loved too.
Yeah. Thank God. That's a baby.
He's a
Monster's a baby.
baby.
He's a baby.
Yeah, so if I had to give it a score, I would definitely give it an 8 out of 10. Only reason I wouldn't give it higher is just because there are certain moments I like tend to drag a little bit. Like I would say, like the whole scene with Pretorius and Henry in Pretorius's lab tends to be a little too long, like
Yeah.
a little bit too long. But outside of that, it's a really well made movie.
Yeah, I think it's because like they really wanted to showcase the miniature thing
Mm-hmm.
so bad. Which I'm pretty sure they were like so excited to do. They're like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
because
this is
like
gonna
I
be
can't
great.
imagine being like, holy shit, look at this, look what we just made. This shit's badass.
Yeah. There goes our budget. Wee.
It's like, sir, what movies are we making right now? Bride of Frankenstein. Throw them in there. It's like, sir, we don't really know how this is going to... Just throw them in there, damn it. They're going to look awesome no matter what.
For sure. For me, it's gonna be a 9 out of 10 because it's great, and I really do like the progress of how the analogies of the Bible and like being able because back in the day, that's all people knew was either religion or film or
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing, and like the fact that we kind of see the progression of how like the monster becomes like is a monster but becomes more human throughout the film is like a really like rewarding thing to like see, and
Mm-hmm.
it's it had to end in such a tragic way, but it also like shows you like not all film needs to end in a happy ending. I mean, we all
Exactly.
kind of know that, like especially now the risks that are being taken in films nowadays.
Yeah.
Not everybody has to be in a happy ending,
I
and
mean, look
the
at...
fact that we actually care about the monster now rather than not caring about him at all.
Mm-hmm. Like, even you like look at the first Frankenstein, even, where,
Hmm.
the movie literally ends with both of them dying in a fire.
Yeah.
Supposedly, quote unquote. If Bride of Frankenstein didn't exist, it still would have been, a tragic ending. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But this time it was for good, I think. I
I
think there's more for
There's
to
some
like the
more.
franchise. I know,
Well, there's more, I
but
think, with Boris Karloff in them, I
yeah,
believe. Yeah.
we all need to go back and experience those now
But you do
for
also have to
sure.
give props to Boris Karloff himself, because like obviously in the first film he's just like kind of the lumbering monster, doesn't do much. But here he has a much bigger role, so he runs around, he does things, he talks.
He didn't want to talk in this one. Did you
Really?
know that?
Well, I didn't know that.
No, he didn't.
Look at
Oh, he
that.
didn't. I was gonna write that in my fun facts, but I was like, but it already happened. But he didn't want to give the monster
Mm.
dialogue
It's like,
because he didn't want to
Boris.
seem like some like humanity to him. He just kind of wanted to make him like have more action of like
Mm.
like the show of act, like basically actions speak louder than words kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, but the director's like, no, talk, you dumb shit. And he's like, well, fuck, like I can't. You're paying me, so I have to.
Boris,
Yeah,
please just talk.
I was like, fine.
It's just like, cut. Boris, goddammit, I need you to talk. I'm not gonna keep doing the scene on.
Oh man, poor Boris. He's like, I
Oh my
don't want
god!
to
You know
talk.
what I was just thinking?
But
You know when the blind man gives the monster the soup?
yeah,
I just thinking of that TikTok when he like eats it. He's like, good soup.
yeah.
Hmm,
It's
good soup.
good smoke. Good.
But like for real though, can we talk about his smoking? He's just like, puff, puff, puff,
Puff,
puff,
puff.
puff, 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 puff. Like he just keeps going at it. Like imagining the blind man like, bro, you know you gotta puff, puff, pass, right? Like it's not just puff, 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 then pass.
Yeah, like barely leaving him anything.
He
That's
just gives it back to the blind man.
adorable.
It's like, the fuck is this shit? This is just a nub. You piece of shit. What the hell? I shared this with you,
Yeah,
and you got greedy.
yeah, but he was humble. He was compassionate, and he was
He was. He
hospitable.
was.
That's what matters. That's the greater story.
Now,
All right,
if you want
y'all.
to see, if you do want to see a funny version of the scene with the blind man, look up the version in Young Frankenstein because it is hilarious.
Oh,
Because in this
really?
one, the blind man is like straight up legit blind and just like consistently hurts the monster.
Oh
Like he hits him by accident.
no.
He spills the hot soup all over him at one point. It's
That's
so
terrible.
funny.
I know I started watching that film, but I don't think I
Oh, I
finished it
love
though.
Young Frankenstein. It's literally a mix of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, but as a comedy, and
Oh,
it
that's
is
so
pure
great.
perfection.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that I think that's really all we had to say, honestly.
Yep,
Unless you have
that
anything else
was.
to add.
No, I could talk about this movie forever, I can't spoil too much for you guys. Because if you guys were to experience, especially if you're one of our Florida goers in Universal Orlando, you will get to experience the other sequel for Bride of Frankenstein and
Mm-hmm.
Howling Hornets.
Yep.
So this is going to be the wrap up of the IP, so you're a little bit more knowledgeable when you
Yeah.
go into the house.
So now that's 2 IPs under your belt now. You've got Texas Chainsaw and Bride of Frankenstein.
And next week is Beetlejuice, right?
Yes, next week we're gonna be talking about the ghost with the most, baby.
Yep.
Beetlejuice. We're very excited for that one.
That's going to be super whimsical and hopefully a really fun-filled episode as
Yes.
well.
And we might also have a special guest for that one. So
Yeah,
we'll keep you updated on that as it happens.
super excited.
But I think it is time for our housekeeping. So we'll start off with Vania. Where can we find you?
You can find me at HHN Cultus in YouTube and on Twitter. I do HHN related stuff, horror, Universal Orlando, all that kind of stuff. So if makeup also interests you and this is something that you want to be a part of, then join my cult. HHN Cultist. So yeah, I just recently released a video taking a different take on the vlogging aspect and making it more music video like, just to do something different, not just talk all the time, just enjoy the view, enjoy the atmosphere of
Mhm.
HHN, and just to do something a little different and smaller for your attention spans, because we all know that not all of us have a great attention span, not even
Yeah.
me.
Okay, yeah, because
But
it was really good too. I really like your video. It was because it was kind of like a highlight reel, really. Instead of just like here's us walking through the scare zone, it was just like here's like creepy imagery and like just random flashes and stuff. It was like really cool. So if you haven't had a chance to, definitely check it out.
yeah, so I will be making more of those throughout the season, just to do something different, because I know
Mhm.
that you guys tend to watch the same vlogs over and over and over again, just to give you something of a fresh thing, and just take a break from the talking.
Yeah.
But there's also other cool and amazing people on this podcast, and that is my co-host Yussef. Where can we find you?
So for my personal stuff, you can find me on Instagram at Yusef1220 and on Twitter at itbeyusef. And then for our podcast, you can find us on all our socials, our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our email, soundsfromthegrave@gmail.com. So you can always reach out to us on any of those, and we'll always reply, no matter what. And then for listening to our podcast, we are on Apple Podcast, Anchor, Spotify, and anywhere else you can get podcasts, as well as YouTube, because we are also on YouTube. So if there's plenty of ways to get our content out there. But that is really all I have right now.
Yeah, that's all of our stuff. So, also, I would like to hear from you guys on the feedback. If you guys kind of like the grave robbing facts, we will continue
Yeah.
doing it. This is our first little segment of it. So, if you guys enjoyed it, we'll continue to add more of those as the times go by. We will probably have some for Beetlejuice, and depending on the feedback, we'll keep grave
Keep those
robbing fun
coming, yeah. Because
facts.
also, yeah, I like doing those. I like doing research on that kind of stuff anyway. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Just,
hopefully you guys did enjoy that. Are kind of experimenting with a new format there.
yeah.
We'll see how people like it.
Yeah.
But for
So
now,
have a good night, guys, and enjoy HHN, especially this next
yes.
coming week. And we will see you guys in the fog.
Yep. Stay spooky, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.